I'm Dennis Anderson along with Julie Zenner, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Governor Tim Walz released his One Minnesota budget proposal this week. Local Democratic and Republican lawmakers join us to talk about what they like and don't like in the budget.
Veterans in the area have a chance to learn about services available to them at a Vets Wellness Fair next week.
And we'll highlight Sovereignty Day at the state capitol in a video report.
These stories and the business news up next on Almanac North. Hello once again, everyone, and welcome to Almanac North. Thank you very much for watching. Well, will it or won't it, Julie? Another batch of snow heading toward our area this weekend.
I don't know. If I look at the last week, I think it will.
I'm keeping the snow shovel and the snow blower handy.
I've got one at each end of the driveway.
I can understand that. All right. Well, let's get our mind off the snow and on to our topics tonight.
All right. Thank you, Denny, and welcome, everyone. Lawmakers in St. Paul this week received the first budget proposal from Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, and the Duluth and St. Louis County Days breakfast local legislators heard from the governor about his nearly $50 billion state budget. But with split House and Senate party control, the budget is a long way from a done deal. Here to talk about the governor's budget is Representative Liz Olson, Democrat from Duluth and the House Majority Whip. Senator Jason Rarick is a Republican from Senate District 11, and Senator Erik Simonson is a DFLer from Duluth. And thanks to all of you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Busy week for all of you.
Yes.
Representative Olson, how does the governor's budget match up with your priorities for both your district and the state?
Well, I think we saw a budget that really shows the value of what it means to care for one another as Minnesotans, and we see that reflected in the governor's proposal, as well as the bills that the House Democrats have laid out so far this session. So good to see that he's investing in things that will help our communities, like local government aid and county aid and other things, talking about schools and investing in our pre-K and our full-service community schools, which has been really important to our community. So, and there's a bunch of other stuff too, but right off the bat, it looks like a great budget proposal for our community and our state.
Senator Rarick, first of all, congratulations on your recent victory.
Thank you.
A $50 billion budget, or near that amount, with the Republicans controlling the Senate. Is this going to be a hard sell?
It is going to be. You know, I believe in some of the investments that we need to make, but we also believe that there are some savings that we should be finding to help pay for it. I've already been hearing from a lot of people. They just don't want to see their taxes go up at the rate that this proposal has.
In what particular areas?
The main one I've been hearing about is the gas tax, and then also the sick tax. They're looking at those as saying, you know, they will really affect their pocketbook, and they would like us to look at some other options. And you know, I think some of the investments will be wonderful. We need that, but let's. I don't think we can afford to raise our taxes. Our budgets don't go up as fast as what the state's budget has been going up these last 10 years.
Senator Simonson, how committed are you as a Democrat to the gas tax that the governor is proposing?
Well, I think we have to remember that the governor just finished a statewide campaign where he spent a lot of time in Minnesota over the course of the last 18 months, and he's convinced that Minnesotans have told him that what they want to see is an investment in our roads and bridges and our basic infrastructure. So I think what he's doing is responding to the needs of those people, and I think I hear about that in Duluth a lot, about the conditions of our roads. And I think it's important that, you know, as we talk about a 20-cent gas tax increase, he's phasing that in over 4 years, a nickel a year. So it's not a big hit all at once, but it's going to go a long ways towards making a lot of the improvements, and not just our state roads, but our city roads, our county roads, and our township roads.
As you look at the budget, where do you think the budget proposal is strongest in terms of helping Greater Minnesota and our region in particular?
Well, I think there's three things that I think about when I think about Greater Minnesota needs, and they usually fall around education, healthcare, and jobs. And I think it touches all three of those in different ways, jobs especially. If we look at his investment in broadband, for example, $70 million proposal into broadband that I've never heard a governor talk about numbers that high, so that's really exciting because that's something that we need in Greater Minnesota. And education with 3% and 2% on the formula is going to make a big difference in a lot of our rural schools.
Representative Olson, what kind of compromises do you think might be necessary to get the budget passed?
Well, I think we still have a bit of work ahead of us with some robust deadlines that we've put in place to make sure that we're working together. I mean, we do need to make investments in our state, and I think we have a really unique situation in Minnesota with a split government the way that we are, that I think it forces a level of compromise that's different, and we have leaders with the governor and with Speaker Hortman and with Leader Gazelka that really want to be pragmatic with how we come to these solutions. And I think we're going to start seeing some of those places where we can agree and compromise starting right out of the gate. I think one thing we've talked about here before is the elder care and the elder abuse issue. I think we'll see work on that, opioids, and a whole host of things right out that we'll have some agreement on. I think that we'll have to work on. There will be issues that will be farther apart, the gas tax or gun violence prevention measures, things like that we'll still have to work out.
Do you see lawmakers able to compromise a little more now?
I do. I mean, I think, again, the way that our government is set up and being in Minnesota and having this unique situation, it really forces compromise to happen. And I think the agreement to deadlines early on and the agreement to kind of do things a little differently and a little more transparent.
A little more civility?
More civility, and I think there's been a nice tone that's been set so far with that, and I'm hopeful that we can continue that this session.
Senator Rarick, what are some of the budget areas where you think that Democrats and Republicans can really find some common ground, and where would you say are areas that might be non-starters for you?
I agree completely with Senator Simonson when he brought up the investment in our education. The 3% and the 2% I think are wonderful. I would like to see some equalization talked about along with that, but that's a great place to start. And I don't know that the $70 million for broadband will stay, but I love seeing that number. That's something I've been talking about. Hopefully we can work with that. I do believe, some of when we talk about conformity, Republicans are going to want to see some work done with that so that there's not this big increase in taxes on Minnesotans. We absolutely need to have conformity, but let's do it in a manner where people aren't going to get hit hard.
Senator Simonson, what does the governor want done about affordable housing, and where do we stand with that? What kind of monies are available for that?
Well, I think this is an issue that he is really focused on, as well as Lieutenant Governor Flanagan. I think if you look across our state, it's not just the urban areas like Duluth and Minneapolis, St. Paul, but it's all across Greater Minnesota too, is the lack of affordable housing. And I think that what we've seen is just this inability to actually define what's affordable to people. So I think that you're going to see his capital investment bill come out this coming week, and I think you're going to see some sizable numbers in there directed towards affordable housing and housing in general.
Let's talk about that capital investment, because it's not really supposed to be a bonding year necessarily. Do you think that that's going to fly this year?
I'm optimistic. I mean, that was really clear at the Duluth-St. Louis County Days. The governor really spoke that that's something we need. The Duluth community, our region, really needs a strong, robust bonding bill. And so we have projects that just really can't wait and that we need to be in, because of in past years, we need a big bonding bill. And I think that that's something we can have discussion about. And I think I'm optimistic that's the direction we should go and would help our community a great deal.
What big projects that you would fight for this
yeah,
area?
Definitely. I mean, we heard the governor talk about the downtown medical district.
$184 million for that.
Correct. And then we have the seawalls, which is, if you go down by the deck now, are crumbling and in desperate need, and we've already done some of the repairs, so to be able to continue that on right away would be really important to our community and would be a good investment in things that we need to see move.
What do you think are the chances of getting $184 million for the Essentia plans for this summer? And is Essentia going to continue on that project if they don't get that kind of money?
I think that's a good question, and you know, I think there's a commitment from a lot of different players to make this happen. The city is really leading the way, or Mayor Larson has really set out a good path, working with all the stakeholders in this that have a real investment and commitment in this project, and we see the benefit that would go well beyond just that area, but around that issue around affordable housing, around workforce housing, around job creation, the jobs it would take to build the project, as well as the state-of-the-art medical campus we would then have. So I think there's a real investment and a real ability. We heard a lot about it at the Duluth-St. Louis County Days. We had people pounding the pavement across sectors to really push this and talk about the importance to not just our community, but the entire region.
Senator Rarick, are you in favor of a bonding bill this year? And if so, are there projects that you're really committed to?
You know, I think a small bonding bill, there are some projects that because of some controversy, didn't get taken care of last year. And there are definitely some emergency things, you know, maybe the seawall here in Duluth. But I don't know that there's an appetite for a large bonding bill this year. We'll have to see just what projects are talked about with that, though. You never know. It might be, I do like to invest in infrastructure, so we'll see what happens and what the proposals are.
Any or all of you can respond to this. Mental health issues. Are we looking at more, a desire for more monies from the state for mental health issues across the state?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you need? What do mental health issues require now?
Well, I think some of the first steps need to be incentivizing people to get into that area. We have such a shortage, you know, like so many other sectors, but unless we have the workers to man it, some of the other investments won't mean a lot. So we need to incentivize some of that for our rural areas, and then we can look at maybe facilities down the line after that.
Senator Simonson, you've been doing this for a number of years now. You know that the initial budget doesn't always look like the end budget. How much do you think how much of what the governor is asking for do you think he's going to get this year?
Well, you're right. What we see now will not be what we see at the end of May. And I think, you know, when I think about this now, I always think about where we need to be on May 20th and then kind of build it backwards from there. And there's really two key pieces that we need. We need to know where the governor's at, so we've seen that in his budget. And now this week we'll see the forecast. And that will tell us about how much money we actually have to work with. And I think the signs are starting to point that the economy will start to slow over the next, you know, 2, 4, 6 years. So the amount of money that we have will kind of dictate how the House and the Senate put their budget proposals together. But I think there are a lot of areas in the governor's budget where Republicans and Democrats will agree. For example, the K-12 funding is one good example. But there are a lot of places where we will disagree, and there is a number of things in that budget that just won't make it through to the end.
Representative Olson, do you think that in some ways a divided government creates better legislation?
I do. I think it forces you to have conversations early and often rather than waiting till the end. I mean, it makes you have to compromise more and really work together to craft this. So I think Minnesota is set up in a unique way to be able to really do something in the area of compromise and good government that I think will benefit the people of Minnesota.
You are also getting to know the new governor. What's his mood as you're going into this session here? And does he believe that he's not going to really get $50 billion?
You know, he's a very positive person. He's got a lot of energy.
It looks that way.
He does. And he comes from Congress. You know, it's surprising that hasn't been beaten out of him yet. But he's got a really good attitude about Minnesota. I think that he is just putting forth all of the issues that he has talked about and heard about on the campaign trail. These are all issues that are very important to him and his administration. But I think he's also a realist. He understands that with the lay of the land, he's not going to get all of those components. But these are all things that do need to be talked about.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in tonight, and head back down to St. Paul and get some work done.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning, members, and welcome to Sovereignty Day at the Minnesota House of Representatives. Minnesota has 11 federally recognized tribes. These 11 tribal nations are sovereign nations with their own government-to-government relationships at the federal, state, and local level. I've set aside today as Sovereignty Day at the Capitol to help educate members and the public on what that means.
You know, like many of my brothers and sisters said, it's hard for us to stand up here and not talk about all the injustices that happen to our people. But also, it's important that we bridge the gap and you guys understand what it is that we've gone through as Native people. In 1863, we negotiated our first treaty with the United States. That treaty was negotiated by the first governor of this great state. That treaty ceded over 11 million acres of land. The Red River Valley, some of the most pristine farmland in the entire world. The Red River Valley supports Minnesota, the United States, and even the world when it comes to providing sustenance for our people. That is the human race. When we pray, we don't pray just for our people, we pray for everyone.
Next week, the Bong Veterans Historical Center in Superior will host a Veterans Wellness Fair. It's an opportunity for veterans in both Wisconsin and Minnesota to learn about available benefits to those who have served in the U.S. military. A number of veterans organizations will be represented with a special emphasis on women who have served our country. And so here to tell us more is Paul Huber from the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs. Paul, thank you very much for being here tonight. How important are outreach efforts like this to reach out and touch the veterans and have them come in and visit with you?
Well, it's very important, Dennis. You know, we try to reach out all the veterans we can, make sure that they're aware of all the benefits that are available there for them.
Are there a lot of vets who are not aware of all of that?
There is. They say only 40% of the veterans out there that are eligible for VA benefits are taking advantage of them.
Really? Why is that?
That's 4 out of 10. You know, here in the north, in Minnesota, Wisconsin, it's a little bit higher, but nationally, that's what it is. Reason is a lot of them in that warrior mentality. You know, they think, well, let someone else, take advantage of it and have those benefits. So, to be able to find those vets that are in need, or maybe if they're not even in need, to reach out there and let them know that it's there for them and we can assist them.
Paul, what are some of the kinds of difficulties that vets experience as they try to reintegrate into daily life after coming back from a tour of duty?
Well, it's, if you talk about like a tour of duty coming back from a deployment, there's a lot of vets are coming back with some type of physical injury. Over 50% of them are having some type of skeletal injury or physical muscle injuries. So skeletal, you talk, your neck, your back, your knees, your hip, and your shoulders, and muscles, they're just fatigue. You're carrying a lot of heavy equipment. You're in some rough country and that. It's hard.
So what kind of services, Paul, will be available to vets at the Wellness Center?
Well, we have, from both sides here, we have the Douglas County Veteran Service Officers as well as the St. Louis County Veteran Service Office. Members of their department will be there. Also, the VA Medical Center, the Twin Ports Medical Clinic, a representative there will be there. And someone from the VA Duluth Vet Center will be there. So, and also along with suicide prevention nurse from the VA. So,
and that's still an issue, is it not?
Yes, it is. It's always an issue. We're doing our best to reach out to them. Try to prevent as much suicide as we can. So,
as you look at our region, how do you think the Northland is doing in terms of providing services and reaching the veterans that need the services?
I think we are actually doing a pretty good job up here. We're doing better than nationally. Could we do better? Yes. We're trying. We're putting forth, these wellness fairs like we are doing here next week, also other veteran fairs, stand downs, and we're doing the best we can, trying to reach them and help them out. I run across veterans every day that are not signed up, and they feel that they don't need it. And I try to tell them that maybe they're fine, but if they enroll into the VA, the VA itself counts them in their total numbers, and they get appropriated so much money from the federal government for every person, every veteran that is enrolled. So you look at it this way: if they get enrolled into the VA, even if they don't really utilize it that much, they're still helping their fellow vets.
Do female veterans struggle with the same issues, or are there some that are unique to them?
Well, there is definitely, they have some, unique situations there. Military sexual trauma is a big thing. I wouldn't say, it's unique not only to them, it's unique most, it does happen. And to reach out to them and try to help them, a lot of times they don't want to come forward with it, so.
You mentioned that whole warrior mentality that maybe keeps people from asking for help. How do you think we as a society can maybe help veterans overcome that, so that there isn't that stigma attached to asking for assistance?
Well, I hate to say it, but sometimes they need a kick in the butt. They need to be forced into going. If you're a loved one of a veteran and they need help, don't give them a choice. Say, hey, you're going. There's no choice at all. We're going to get you signed up here, the VA, and maybe get the help that you need.
Is this the first wellness center that you're going to be opening now? And if this is a success, will there be others?
Well, yes. I mean, am I going to say this is the first one that we did in this area? No, I think we did similar things. Maybe we didn't call it a wellness fair, but we did a lot of similar things, to try to reach out for the vets. And if this works, of course, we'll do more, as much as we can. So.
So give us the details on the wellness fair.
Well, it's next week Thursday, so the 28th of February. It's at the Bong Veterans Center. Now, that's another thing too. That's a great museum that's here in the Northland that that people of Duluth and Superior can be proud of. It represents. It's there for Richard Dick Bong, a Congressional Medal of Honor recipient. It's something that we can be proud of in this area, that a hero of that caliber came from, and it have such a high caliber museum there. So it's going to be at that place next week Thursday from 12 to 5. Afterwards, later in the evening at 6:30, there is going to be an author who wrote a book, Eleanor's War. She wrote it about the women who served during World War I and World War II. And their experience, which is unique. Yeah.
And Paul, with that, we have to cut it short. Can't thank you enough for being here tonight. Paul Huber, Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs.
And we'll have more information up on the screen about
All right.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Let's turn now to the business news from the editors at Business North. Cirrus Aircraft has reported its strongest deliveries in a decade. New customer deliveries for the company's best-selling SR series showed steady growth and reached 380 aircraft in 2018. That's a 7% increase over 2017. The Duluth-based manufacturer also announced acceleration of production and delivery of the Vision Jet, the world's first single-engine personal jet. 63 were delivered in 2018, with nearly 100 Vision Jets currently in service around the world.
Cleveland Cliffs is close to announcing the resurrection of its Empire Mine near Marquette, Michigan. The mine was idled in 2016 when much of the easy-to-mine ore was exhausted. Cliffs has also decided to increase the production capacity of its hot briquetted iron plant, which is currently being built in Toledo, Ohio. The change will increase costs to $830 million and increase annual production from 1.6 million to just under 2 million metric tons. The plant is on track to open in mid-2020.
Investigations into a fire on the Great Lakes freighter St. Clair are underway. The American steamship company vessel typically carries iron ore pellets, coal, and limestone and frequently docks in the Twin Ports. The 770-foot freighter was in winter layup at the Port of Toledo when the fire broke out. 8 local fire departments and the U.S. Coast Guard responded. There is no official damage estimate yet. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
If you have a comment about our show tonight, call now, dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message, or send an email to almanacnorth@wdsc.org, and check out the WDSC website for news and information about the station, our latest program schedule, and special events coming up soon. And one of those special events is next Wednesday, Julie, and that's a screening of the new documentary Historic Trails in Northern Minnesota. That screening will be at Voyager Brewing in Grand Marais.
And these screenings are a lot of fun, so if you get a chance, check it out.
Absolutely. Go to our website for more details on that free screening. For Julie and the crew, I'm Dennis Anderson. Have a great weekend. Good night, everybody, and be kind.